Hello, everyone, and welcome to Nonfiction Narratives. I'm Gwen Murtha, and joining me for this is my coworker, Adam Dunn.
Hey, everybody.
Thank you for joining me.
Of
Appreciate
course.
it greatly.
I'm glad to be here.
And our topic today is the Holy Land. So Adam has actually had some experience with that, and he offers a unique perspective. So once again, thank you for joining me. And the first book you have is Jesus Through Jewish Eyes. Is that right?
Yes. So the first one, Jesus Through Jewish Eyes. There's the full picture.
Yeah.
So through this one is a collection of short perspectives through a number of rabbis and local influential people. This selection goes through their perspective of who Jesus was, and between living in Israel or having experience there or living in America, they go through what their perspective on who Jesus was to them. And most of the time we see this influence of what closely connects to themselves. So their personal experience is why they believe in what they do.
Were there any portions of the book that really stood out to you or that you really enjoyed?
So I enjoyed the variant perspectives, mostly between those that see him as a miracle worker and somebody more prominent, and then also the perspective of those that think or that believe that he may be just another rabbi, just another person. So the more or less influential he was in different perspectives was really interesting to read about, to see these different people who view them so differently, but yet also claim to have very similar beliefs overall.
Okay. Thank you. And when you're done, I'm going to read that.
Put it aside for you.
And one of the books that I read is In the Footsteps of Jesus, a chronicle of his life and the origins of Christianity by Jean-Pierre Isbouts. This is a National Geographic print, and it gives sort of a historical and archaeological context of the world that he lived in, which I really enjoyed. And it goes through Roman history and the Roman abuses of the Jewish community. So you know what he was fighting against during his ministry. And it goes into details about first century Jewish traditions and life and customs. And it's got several pictures and mentions of old synagogues and old temples and what they meant to the community. The book also discusses the New Testament and how some of the language mirrors the Old Testament, which sort of shows that he came to fulfill the Old Testament prophecies. And it goes into very good detail on that, actually. It also discusses, and this is the part that I found really most interesting, were the discrepancies in the timeline and the geography that are mentioned in the Bible. The Bible was never meant to be a historical account, and using it as such misses the point. The point of, say, Christmas isn't that Christ was born on December 25th. The point is that he was born, period. Like I said, this is a National Geographic creation, and they do not skimp on pictures. They're absolutely gorgeous. And I think this part of the world can be somewhat misunderstood. I'm gonna put this up in our faces.
Yeah.
And the pictures do a lot of showing how beautiful it can be. Lots of water, lots of beautiful flowering meadows. And that's really, really great to see. My personal favorites are the parts of the River Jordan that they show. And I don't know if that mirrors your experience when you were over there, if you ever saw any of the River Jordan or any of the meadows or any of that.
Yeah, definitely. It's very unique because you think the Middle East and you think dry and desert, and that's really it.
Yeah.
But there's a variety of landscapes throughout the entire country and the entire region. So you do have the Negev, the mass desert, which is just bare, nothing there. But you do have the oasis with the greenery and the water things like that, through some of Tiberias, and then even going to the Dead Sea, which is dry in the middle of everything. But you still have, the greenery around, which is a neat perspective.
Yeah, those are
For
really
sure.
those are really beautiful. And we actually talked about this earlier when we discussed, there's this place with all this history and all this religious
So much history.
history.
So much history.
And it's kind of amazing that we were given that, I think. Like,
Definitely.
yeah.
It's definitely a melting pot for just so much. And within, my personal experience of stepping foot in that space, in that region, is just an out of body experience, because there's just so much energy, so much history, so many different beliefs that are tied into this one location, that it's just, I can't wrap my whole brain around it, feeling all of that. So it's just unbelievable to be
Awesome.
there.
That's awesome. And the next book that you read was Jesus Through Middle Eastern Eyes.
Yes. So the next one that I have, unfortunately, we don't have a copy that's circulating in our system, so we can't show you. Sorry, but yes, it is on Hoopla, and that's where I found it too. And this one was interesting because it was similar to the explaining of the chain of events. But they also went into the greater aspect of, like we mentioned, so many different beliefs that go into this, that's all surrounding this one area. So you have a little bit more perspective on not just the events that happened, but also the beliefs and traditions that came out of those.
Okay.
So you have a little bit more perspective in those that I thought was really fascinating. That was kind of told in a way that you kind of step back from the religious side and just look at the historical events.
Yeah.
Which was really neat.
So like X happened and this is why we do Y.
Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly. Which was a little bit refreshing in ways to hear it that way and to read about it in that perspective. Was just, it's different, but again, refreshing.
Okay. I want to read that one too.
They were both great.
Yeah. And that one you said we can find on Hoopla, which you can access through the library's website.
For free.
For free. We do like free here.
Yes.
So the final book is called Abraham, A Journey to the Heart of Three Faiths by Bruce Feiler. And this book is an examination of the life and impact of Abraham, patriarch and spiritual successor, and by some accounts, biological ancestor of Judaism, Islam, and Christianity. And it kind of goes into, it talks about the Holy Land, and it's kind of where we have this place where it's very religiously and historically important. And then we have all these stakeholders who view it differently and who have different needs and desires for it, which makes it an interesting read.
And I think I mentioned before that I used the term melting pot.
Yes.
Because there is, such a relatively small region that is in question here of what really went on. Mm-hmm. And the chain of events led to so many different branches that we know today of different beliefs and different values and things like that, that still came out of a relatively small region. Yeah. And like we said, one of the points that between Abraham, that selection, and then also Jesus through through Middle Eastern eyes, both of them made a point that if we think of this area, we generally think of positivity, this enrichment of history and things like that in a positive way. And then it's kind of hard to wrap, to fathom how much is going on there, to where it's not all butterflies and flowers and positivity,
Yeah.
there is an ongoing sense of tension and war all in this one place because you're thinking millions, billions of people that have their eyes on this place.
Yeah.
And as we know it, people are stubborn. So
Yes.
they're very set
Yes.
in their ways of, I'm the correct one. So you should listen to me. And if you don't, then I may do something about it. So this idea of tension and war, that's just been ongoing. I mean, thousands and
Yeah,
thousands of
literally thousands of
years,
years.
that it's still going on. I mean, to this day, that people are attacking or, whatever you want, for, I guess, ownership or
Yeah.
whatever you want to call it.
Well, there's a little bit of irony there that we have this place that all three of us can agree, all three of us meaning Jews, Christians, and Muslims, we all agree that this is a holy place.
Yes, it's
And
very
rather
important.
than, getting together, everybody sit around and talk about what we need, what we want to do, we're just going to blow each other up. There's some irony. It's not. It's a little hard to read at times, actually.
It is, yeah. And that's just the facts about it, which I thought was really good with the selection. Abraham is they put it. The author puts it in a very straightforward perspective.
Yes. Yes.
It's not, it's not sugar coated at all, and yet it's still a nice read from that perspective.
Yeah. He went around and he went to several people from different religions and different denominations, and he talked to them about, what do we believe about Abraham?
And that's important.
Yeah.
For sure, to get those perspectives, and get those insights.
And he did a pretty good job of getting a diverse group of people to talk to him about it, I thought. And it kind of goes into some of the differences. Which kid did he try to sacrifice? We can't agree on that. But it also discusses what it meant when he left, when he trusted God enough to leave his homeland of Ur and go to the Holy Land. And the thing that you mentioned already, you touched on it, that I appreciate about the author is that he flatly refused to ask everybody to hold hands and sing Kumbaya.
Right.
This is a hard thing to do. This is a very conflicted area of the world. And just saying, oh, we can just love each other, like that just cheapens it. No. And it dismisses that. And he flatly refused to do that. This is complicated, and there are no easy answers. And I don't think that was exactly hopeful, but I do think that was honest.
Yeah.
And I appreciated that.
Honesty is good in that perspective. Because we can read all about how, everything's perfect in this area and things like that. But is that, reality?
Yeah.
And it's very much not reality.
No, it's not.
In this region.
And if we said that it was, then we would be lying, and it would prevent us from moving forward and making actual improvements, I thought.
And I think that's the ultimate, more or less, that's the ultimate goal. I mean, we know, like we stated before, we know that this is, a very important place, and billions of people believe this is an important place. So why is it okay to hurt others for that?
Yeah.
Like, that's the hard question to ask.
Yeah.
And ultimately we have to, even if it's agreeing to disagree, we still have to come to some kind of understanding.
Yeah.
And sense.
I think that's a good point. I also think that if we're going to do that, we also have to agree that at some point people have been hurt. And the really hard thing that for me is to hear that people, my own kind, have done some of that hurting. And I'm not talking about, 1,000 years ago during the Crusades. I'm talking about recently. And that's very hard to hear, and that's very hard to admit sometimes. I imagine it's the same thing for everybody else.
It is. I mean, you have this idea of living under, this influence, or living the perfect life, because of whoever you may, worship or believe in, to achieve that, perfect life. But in the same lines, you claim to follow goodness,
Mhm.
but yet you also attack those that are different.
Yeah, or you see someone else attacking others who are different, and it kind of gets. It's very hard to wrap your head around that. Like, yeah, sure you on that side?
Yeah, and that's exactly right, because you do claim those, your views and your claims and what this whole words speak louder than actions,
Yeah,
things like that, or actions speak louder than words. That's
Yeah.
what it really is. People are going to see, like, okay, you just set off a car bomb in the middle of the Holy Land, in the middle of Jerusalem. For what reason? But then claim like, oh, I'm a Christian and I'm, inclusive with all these people and I love everybody.
yeah.
These
There's
two
a
just-
disconnect there. There's a definite disconnect there, and it's very, very hard to read about in the news or in a book.
Unfortunately, the news does
Yeah.
not give it justice. So reading something like these selections that we mentioned on personal experience is nice, is a change from what we listen to the news and hear on the news, because we know that that's not 100% accurate
That's true.
in some ways.
That's true. Once again, the nice thing about these books, like you said, is that they give us another viewpoint, and they give us what I think we could say is an honest viewpoint from other people. And so maybe we can understand that a little bit better. And once again, these books are Abraham, Journey to the Heart of Three Faiths by Bruce Feiler.
We have Jesus Through Jewish Eyes. And this is a kind of compilation between rabbis and scholars by Beatrice Bruteau.
The editor. We also have In the Footsteps of Jesus, a chronicle of his life and the origins of Christianity by Jean-Pierre Esbouts. I don't think I'm pronouncing that right.
Close.
And we also have, who's the other one? Jesus.
Oh, and then Jesus Through Middle Eastern Eyes. And I'll be honest, I don't remember the author of that one.
But you can find it on Hoopla.
But it is on his blog.
So Adam, thank you for joining me today. I really appreciate it.
It's a nice talk, for sure.
Thank you.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. And we are signing off. See you next time.
Bye.